The MTRC says no evidence so far of steel bars being cut short in coupler connection checks at Hong Kong Station. A call for better management of tourist traffic in Hong Kong. And the death toll from Indonesia's tsunami disaster exceeds 280.
Good evening. The MTR Corporation says its checks on connections of steel bars to couplers at Hong Kong Station have so far shown no evidence of any bars being cut short. A company executive, however, admits the quality of the work of the connections fell short of the standard. Meanwhile, an independent consultant of the MTRC has suggested a structural safety standard that differs from the government's. Sharon Tang reports.
It's been 2 weeks since the MTR Corporation began breaking open 80 spots on 2 platforms of the Hong Kong Station extension. That's equivalent to inspecting around 168 rebar and coupler connections. So far, 6 out of 10 connections exposed were proven problematic as the steel bars were not completely screwed into the couplers. According to the Buildings Department, the embedded length of a threaded steel bar inside the coupler should be at least 14 millimeters. That means there should only be at most 2 full threads exposed. However, the MTRC's independent consultant Yim Kin Ping today suggested the otherwise. He said that he would still consider the rebar and couplers connections to be within structural safety standards even if 4 full threads were exposed. Yim also noted that the so-called requirement was only meant for product specification. Does that mean putting passengers' lives at risk? An MTRC executive insists it's not yet time to comment on the issue.
We believe we have to wait until the 3rd stage, the stage of detailed structural analysis, including a consolidation of all the findings and information and data that we obtain from the first 2 stages. And only at that stage we can answer, we can be assured whether the structure is safe and sound.
He added that the MTRC will not rule out taking legal actions against Leighton Asia over its substandard performances. Meanwhile, an expert disagreed with the independent consultant's comments.
The problem is all those steel and coupler have already installed into the concrete. It is unable for them to have further samples with the same material, same bar of the rebar. I don't think BD will accept this without our proper or related test result.
Sharon Tang, TVB News.
Leading up to Christmas, you may expect larger crowds at local malls and attractions. Not everyone wants tourists in their neighbourhood though. Some residents in To Kwa Wan are dreading that, and here's why. The more the merrier, not if you ask those who live in To Kwa Wan. They spit, litter and squat everywhere, said this woman. Another complained about the noise levels. Jewellery and chocolate shops in the area are often on the travel itinerary of mainland tour groups. Tour buses even parked illegally. Politicians are concerned with the influx of tourists as there can be up to 300 tour groups visiting a day.
We cannot only look at the economic benefit, right? We can see that all these lower price tours do cause a lot of nuisance to the local community. If this situation cannot be rectified, they have to kind of set the limit for all these lower price tours to come to Hong Kong.
Besides appealing to the Travel Industry Council for help, the lawmakers also want the police to step up enforcement and clamp down on traffic violations in the district. The families of 2 Hong Kongers being detained in Japan today sought help from the central government to get the pair home for Christmas. Relatives of Kwok Sil Kit and Yin Man Hua spoke to officials at the Commissioner's Office of China's Foreign Ministry in Hong Kong for about half an hour today. Kwok's daughter talked about her father's hunger strike against the intolerable treatment he has received, such as being denied cigarettes and daily showers.
The Chinese Academy of Social Sciences has forecast a decline in China's GDP growth next year. The think tank has predicted the mainland's economic growth will slow down to 6.3% in 2019. That's 0.3 percentage points lower than the current year's figure. Researchers highlighted ripples from the Sino-US trade war, but said there is no risk of a hard landing of the economy. They remain optimistic as they believe spending in certain sectors, such as education and services for the elderly, will continue to rise.
Overseas in Indonesia, the number of dead has gone up to 281 after a tsunami struck towns along the rim of the Sunda Strait between Java and Sumatra Islands on Saturday night. That number is expected to rise as many of the affected areas have yet to be reached. Peter Caveos has details.
Crews work to clean up the devastation from the tsunami in Indonesia. Trees and debris litter the ground. Homes have been flattened. Those that are still standing are missing roofs and walls. Makeshift shelters have been set up for the victims. This man says he was traumatized. Last night he was out getting supplies with his family when a huge wave emerged. Hospitals are overrun with patients, as hundreds of people have been injured. The director of one clinic says all his patients have been referrals from other hospitals. Indonesia's President Joko Widodo visited one of the affected areas and expressed grief for the victims. He also ordered a check of all tsunami warning systems.
People talk about why isn't there an early warning system in every single part of the Indian Ocean, particularly around Indonesia. It would take thousands of detector buoys, which are difficult to maintain, expensive. Normally, you have an earthquake, there's a warning because you've got an earthquake. In this case, there was no earthquake as such. And so there wasn't even the chance for people to realise an earthquake would lead to a tsunami. So there was very little that could have been done in this case, and it's just a tragic fact of nature.
Thousands of residents have also been ordered to flee for higher ground. A high tide warning for the area has been extended until Wednesday. The timing of the tsunami over the Christmas season evoked memories of the Indian Ocean disaster in 2004. On Boxing Day that year, an earthquake triggered a massive tsunami. More than 200,000 people were killed in the region, including more than 120,000 in Indonesia. Peter Caveos, TVB News.
British police are still looking for the culprits behind disruptive drone incursions at London's Gatwick Airport last week. The airport has resumed normal operations after hundreds of flights were cancelled. A couple arrested earlier were released without charge yesterday as police said they were no longer suspects.
Well, even whilst those two people have been in custody, we have been following a number of lines of inquiry. That has included house-to-house inquiries with regards to where we have reported sightings of drone incursions. We are also following up a number of leads in terms of persons of interest. And I can say to you that we yesterday recovered a damaged drone close to the perimeter of the Gatwick Airport in Horley. And obviously we will be doing everything we can with regards to forensically examining that drone. And that is something that's been fast-tracked and expedited as I am speaking to you now.
And still ahead tonight. Christmas Eve celebrations in the city. Tolls at Thailand Tunnel to go up next month. Welcome back to TVB News. Now, just hours before Christmas Day, we sent our reporter Pinky Wong to Lan Kwai Fong to see how locals and tourists plan to celebrate. So Pinky, tell us more from where you are.
It's Christmas Eve and restaurants are getting quite busy. Since 6 p.m, police implemented crowd safety measures. Multiple roads, including Queen's Road Central and Wellington Street, are now closed. But if you're planning to get a table tonight, lower your hope, as some of the restaurants said they're already fully booked for tonight. It'll be anything but a silent sight in Lan Kwai Fong. This restaurant is expecting a full house as diners book 2 weeks in advance, which will hopefully bring a 10% business growth this Christmas.
It's in the heart of Lan Kwai Fong, in ground floor. If we are in somewhere in Lan Kwai Fong, but we are in the 7th or 9th floor, maybe we are not that good.
The trade war between the U.S. and China, and also the devaluation of renminbi, the fluctuations of the stock market, and also the property market is not that stable. So many people will stay in Hong Kong and then they will spend cautiously.
In light of the African swine fever outbreak, restaurants have used less pork and included other meat dishes this year. For those planning a liquid diet, take note of pills that claim to lower your chances of getting drunk.
With the pills, I think it will be helpful. Sure.
Pharmacist aren't so sure.
You would see statements that say this will prevent drunkenness. But then when you actually look inside the active ingredients, a lot of them are really health products that may not be actually be significant in reducing the alcohol effects. The claims which some of the products have on regarding metabolizing alcohol, we have not seen the scientific evidence.
Some of the drugs that are readily available at convenience stores contain Chinese medicine components such as ginseng. Beware though, as the Academy warned that could lead to food-drug interaction, causing people to feel dizzy or nauseous. Perhaps best to just drink in moderation. It's getting crowded in Lan Kwai Fong here. If you plan to stay longer in here, don't worry about public transportation. Most MTR lines will be operating around the clock, except for some, such as the Disneyland Resort Line and Airport Express Line. Buses and minibuses will also extending their operation hours on some routes. That's all from me. Back to you in the studio.
And thank you, Pinky, for the live. To other news now, motorists will have to pay more to use the Thailand Tunnel from next month. It'll be $4 more for private vehicles and taxis at $48. Motorcyclists will need to pay $22, 10% more than what they are currently charged. Light goods vehicles will see a $4 hike and larger trucks $5 more. The tunnel company cited increased operational costs as the main reason for the toll hike.
Authorities today explained why they refused to issue a Taiwanese band a work visa to enter Hong Kong. According to local singer Denise Ho, the Immigration Department said the applicant should possess a special skill, knowledge or experience of value to and not readily available in Hong Kong. 5 members of Thonic pulled out of a concert as they were still waiting for their visas a day before the scheduled performance. Lead singer Freddie Lim is a pro-Taiwan independence lawmaker.
Customs hailed victory at court today after a man was convicted for breaching the amended Trade Descriptions Ordinance. He did so by hiding his middleman status and lured women into buying expensive beauty services. Kana Chu has more.
Wong Ki-chang was slapped with 160 hours of community service at the Eastern Magistrates Court. Earlier, the 26-year-old admitted to 6 counts of engaging in relation to a consumer in a commercial practice that is a misleading admission. Wong met 6 women through dating websites and apps between May and September last year. Upon gaining their trust, he took them to a beauty parlor's Mong Kok and Causeway Bay branches for beauty services. The lady spent some $300,000 on treatments, unaware that Wang was an agent of the beauty parlor. He pocketed a commission of $71,000 and became unreachable. Today, the principal magistrate took the probation officer's suggestion and sentenced Wang to community service. He also ordered the defendant to pay 6 victims more than $230,000. Hong Kong Customs say that is the largest compensation amongst similar malpractices. In fact, it was their first ever conviction of someone hiding their commercial intent in selling beauty services since the Trade Description Ordinance was amended in 2013. Customs called today's verdict as having a great deterrence effect, though the maximum penalty is a $500,000 fine and 5 years in prison. Kana Chu, TVB News.
Overseas again, South Korea slapped BMW with an almost $10 million fine and will file a criminal complaint against the German automaker. After a 5-month review, South Korea's Transport Ministry concluded that BMW deliberately tried to cover up technical problems and was too slow to recall faulty vehicles. This came after around 40 BMW cars caught fire earlier this year. The ministry said the fires were caused by faulty valves in the vehicle's exhaust gas recirculation coolers. BMW apologized and recalled some 172,000 vehicles of 65 different models in July and October.
And that's the news.
Thanks for watching and happy holidays.